Hi, this is Dr. Shaw-Thornburg, your English 151-45 instructor, and I'm coming to you today because I wanted to discuss a few things with you regarding the papers that you just turned in and some things that we have coming up over the next few weeks. The first thing that I really want to talk about has to do with some things that I'm seeing on the drafts of your research assignments that I'm currently grading. Specifically, I want to talk to you about documentation in your papers, okay? Here we have a sample paper, and I want to point out a few things that have to do with the MLA format. You'll notice that there is a title for this paper, and there is an expectation at college level anyway that you're going to include a descriptive essay title. This one's pretty basic. It's called The Woman in Yellow and Toni Morrison's Tar Baby. You'll notice that the name of the work is italicized. Since you're writing about a play, you definitely want to use that same format. I notice that some of you are not italicizing titles, and you have to do that for plays. The other thing that has to do with the MLA paper formatting is that there should be a header on your paper. In this case, it's simply your last name space page number, okay? And all you have to do that is just to select a page number by clicking on the header. You can insert page numbers, and then you just type your last name, and it should appear on every page, okay? So that's one thing you need to look at. Another thing that I'm really looking for when I'm looking at a paper that's supposed to be in MLA format is that it should be double spaced. I've actually gotten several papers that are single spaced, and for MLA you have to use double spaced. It also makes it a lot easier to read, okay? Let's get into the content of the paper. Specifically, I want to talk to you about documentation. Documentation is like a pair of shoes. You have to have two shoes to be able to walk around, right? So when you're doing documentation, it has two parts. If you don't have those two parts, then your paper is not accurately documented. So the two parts of MLA documentation is the in-text citation and the works cited page. They must go together. For cell review, I noticed that you did make an effort to document, and you did that by including a works cited page at the end of your paper. But then when I get into the body of the paper, there are no matching in-text citations. So anytime you have an entry on your works cited page, that means there should be an in-text or parenthetical citation in the body of the paper, and vice versa. If I see an in-text citation in your paper, there should be a matching bibliographic entry on your works cited page. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If we scroll down to this paper and we get to this point right here, here's an example of an in-text citation. This sentence says, critic Sandara O'Casey argues, comma, for example, comma, that, quote, Jadine's return to Europe is a rejection of her African heritage. You'll notice that here in parentheses, we've got the author's last name and a page number. Note the order that it's in. We have a closed quotation, open parentheses, last name of the author, space, there's no comma, nothing else, the page number, where this quote came from, close parentheses, period. And that's how you do a short in-text citation. Because the author's name was included in what's called a signal phrase, remember that's just a noun and a verb that introduces the quotation, you don't necessarily have to put the O'Casey here, but I do it just because I want to make sure you're very aware that that in-text citation is supposed to be there, okay? Alright, so we've got O'Casey 65. What that means is when I scroll down to the works cited page that immediately follows the end of this essay, there should be an entry under O'Casey's name, and sure enough, there it is. Notice the order that this is in, last name, comma, first name of the author, title of the article in quotation marks. You'll notice too that the name of the book is italicized even though it didn't originally appear like that in the article title. You have to go back and do that. There's the name of the journal article, it is italicized, and then there's a space, the volume number and edition number where it appeared, the year it was published, page number where that quotation came from. There's the name of the electronic database that I used, period, web, because that's the medium, MLA 7th edition, which is what you use in English classes now requires that you put the medium. So we've got web, print, okay? And then there's the date that I accessed it, period, and that is how it should be done. So we've got the works cited entry, and that matches up with the in-text citation that's there in the paper, okay? So you absolutely must do that. That's not optional, all right? Let's scroll down and look at another kind of citation. I have a really big quote here, and you'll notice that it's indented an extra ½ inch on each side. This is what's called a block quote, okay? It is a block quote. And those are a little bit different from the in-text citation that we looked at previously, okay? This is 4 lines or more, which means I had to do it in this particular style. And notice how the punctuation is set up here. There are no quotation marks around this because I've already set it aside by indenting it an extra ½ inch, okay? So you put a period and then you put the parenthetical or in-text citation, okay? So that says Morrison 148. Notice that the period goes at the end of the quotation, not after, the way it usually does when you're doing a parenthetical or in-text citation. And just notice too that this is actually a direct citation from the work that I'm analyzing. Because I'm including specific moments from that text, Toni Morrison's Tar Baby, I must cite it. So if you use direct quotations from Fences, you've got to include that on your works cited page, okay? And that's what I did here as well, okay? So there goes the book right there. It's a print, it's a book. This is actually the format that you use for books. Last name, comma, first name of the author, period, title of the work, place of publication if you have that information, publisher, comma, year of publication, period, and then print, which is the medium in which it originally appears, okay? I also finally want to talk with you about integrating and using sources in your paper. So here's a sample paragraph. It reads, at the end of the novel, when Jadine is on a flight back to Paris, she refers to her return to Paris in part as a desire to, quote, tangle with the woman in yellow, a moment that is followed closely by her epiphany, quote, that a grown woman did not need safety or its dreams. She was the safety she longed for. There's a citation. And then here's some analysis. It says, I take her reference to the woman in yellow at this moment to be a recognition that the woman in yellow and women like her are not simply objects or mirrors that only reflect back what is already in the self. The use of the word tangle denotes messiness, deep engagement, a willingness even to fight over notions of black femininity. Okay? Now, you'll notice a couple of things about what I did here. We get some background or contextual information so we can actually understand what's going on when the quote is introduced into the text. That's what this is. So we've got that first. Then we've got the quotation itself. This quotation is broken apart a little bit, but there goes the quotation, okay? And you'll notice that it works with the grammar of the sentence and that the parenthetical or in-text citation immediately follows it, okay? So introduce or give some context for the quote in MLA format. And then these remaining sentences specifically offer some analysis of that quotation. And if you look at the analysis that's here, it actually connects back to the thesis of this particular essay, okay? Remember, the thesis of this essay is that although Jadine's return to Europe is not an explicit return home to African American community, there is a case to be made for seeing her return to Europe as an engagement with more contemporary notions of the identity of African descendant people in the West, rather than as a simple flight from African American identity and community. So when I did the analysis of that quote, I made sure that that analysis helped me to make a point about the thesis, okay? So you want to use that exact format when you are integrating quotations into your paper. Make sure you introduce or provide some context to the quote so the readers are not confused. Quote in MLA format, making sure the quote works for the grammar of the sentence in which the quote occurs. Make sure you've got your in-text citation with the quote. Then make sure you have some analysis that is connected to the overall argument you're making in your paper, okay? And that is the format you should always follow when you're doing analysis of quotations or you're integrating sources into your paper. One or two more things. In order for you to be able to see the remaining chapters, you need to make sure that you are clicking these reviewed buttons out here to the side in the first 2 items that are in week 10. So until you click those reviewed buttons for item 1 and item 2 in week 10, you will not be able to see the remaining chapters. And this is the information that's in the remaining chapter, chapter 11 through 13. Please make sure you go ahead and take a look at the final essay and project assignment that will be due on December 2nd. You also have an exam in this class. There's just a placeholder here because you can't see it yet. It will be December 9th from 2 to 3 p.m. in the assessment center. There is no option for off-campus. And that's everything. I hope you have a great week. Please contact me if you need assistance with anything.